Hello there, welcome to this week's class. Firstly, I would like to say that I had some feedback on last week's class and some of you found it very difficult. And I started that class quite gently, being a breath-centric class as it was, focusing on how the breath leads to the bandha, quite naturally. And in doing that, some of the postures we did were quite vigorous, quite strenuous. So I would just like to remind you at this point that when I put these classes together, I'm offering a general class, which is of course entirely unsuited to yoga, because really I should be there with you so that I can see how you're working and then guide you perhaps to something more suitable if I can see you struggling. So you really need to think about the practice as we move through it, because although some of the movements we start with are gentle, I will be offering alternatives for those of you who want to work more strongly. But as I suggest these more strong variations, if it starts to not suit your body, because after all, for every different human being in the world, there'll be an individual yoga practice, and even those of us who practice day by day change the practice according to how we feel. So you're constantly modifying and making things suit you. That's what the process of learning in yoga is. So when you get to a point where you feel that you don't want to do those variations or modifications I've suggested, then just don't. Just stay where you're comfortable and keep using your awareness of the breath to guide you in that, because when the breath starts to struggle, the body will start to struggle. So we're going to start off by exploring that relationship between right posture and the breath. And we're going to do that in a very easy way, sitting down. Now, if you don't want to sit on the floor, you don't have to. This is much more effective if you are sat stably and steady and comfortably on a chair, as long as your feet can touch the floor. So for those of you who are going to be on the ground, maybe have something under the sit bones like I have, something so that your hips are raised. Okay, and again, if you're using a bolster rather than blocks, that can be useful because there's a little bit of wobble movement there. So whether you're sitting on a chair, you'll have your feet in front of you, just under the knees, so you just maybe can lean forward and see the tips of the toes. If you're sitting on the floor, then you need your legs to be fairly soft, fairly bent, so that your feet can touch the ground comfortably, and hands on the knees. And we'll start with no weight in the shoulders whatsoever. And start to connect to that ujjayi sound in the breath. That's where we start. We're going to generate that soft sighing sound, so the breath is throat-centric. It's almost like there is an audible sound, but it's just larynx getting on. It's almost as if you're about to make a noise but not. So just before the larynx makes a noise. And because we're sitting, you can also close the eyes if you find the focus more easily with your eyes closed. We don't need the eyes because we don't need the balance when we're sitting down. And notice that this breath is starting to smooth itself out. And then without too much effort, you may notice you're already moving as you breathe in and out. Maybe the spine is gently flexing with the breath. And start to turn on that breath engine. So as we breathe in, you are opening and widening the chest, strengthening the muscles between the spine, between the shoulders in the back body. And as you breathe out, you're drawing the muscles inwards towards the spine in the abdomen. So there's a softness about the front body as you're breathing in. And there's a strength in the front body as you're breathing out. So feel how that front body is supported by the spine as you breathe, quite naturally. And notice that if you let the spine crumple a little bit, let the shoulders come forward and let the spine sag, notice the impact on the breath. And then breath at a time, you can begin to use that breath engine, breathing into the chest as you inhale and breathing out from the belly as you exhale. And notice that as the breath moves you naturally upwards, how you're now sitting with the spine lengthening. So you want to find a happy balance, don't you? You want to find that happy, comfortable asana where the spine is just engaged enough to be holding the spine tall, to enable the best breath without causing any rigidity. So you're finding a balance between the best breath and the best posture. And then we can start to use just the head, allowing as you breathe out the chin to drop. Feeling that Jalandhara bandha in the throat naturally arising. Hold the chin down and take the breath in. So you're lifting your chest towards the chin. And when you breathe out, you can let your head rise. Take the chin slightly skyward, breathing in. Bring the chin to the throat, breathing out. And again, notice here that you need to lift your chin to make the breath in easier. And you can, as you bring the chin down, notice how it makes the out breath stronger. So again, that openness in the front body as you lift your chin and lift your chest is supported all the way down the spine, from the back of the head down to the lumbar spine. So that ability to receive the breath in on the inhale is supported by strength in the back. And notice how that stretch in the back, that ease in the back on the exhale is supported by strength in the front body as you bring your chin down, as you bring your waist inwards, as you draw the navel back towards the spine. And then if you find you're taking your chin right up on the inhale, you could begin that descent by bringing the head forward first, so chin down first, and then all the way down, bringing the shoulders forward into a stretch. So inhale up, press the chest forward. Chin down first, exhale, bring the shoulders forward. Chin down at the top of the inhale and keep that Jalala bandha in the throat as you move the shoulders forward to stretch the muscles in the back. One more time. Inhale, open the front body. Chin down, and exhale as you fold. And then in the next breath or two, gently and slowly coming back to neutral. And again, just notice any changes in the breath. Resting breath here. So now we're going to make things slightly more complicated and taking that stretch to the side. So if you're sitting on a chair, you might want to hold the edges of the chair, making sure, of course, the chair doesn't have arms. If you're sitting on the floor, you may want to do this kneeling, or you may want to put something if you're sitting cross-legged and your knees don't reach the ground. So I'm going to start with an upright spine, fingers on the floor beside me. And as I breathe in, I'm going to palms forward, elbows back, stretching the chest. And as I breathe out, I'm going to bring the hands together to settle at the end of the out breath, gazing down towards the hands. So inhaling, use those muscles in the back. And exhale, use those muscles in the front. So you're moving when your breath is moving. Opening up the front body, receiving that breath into the chest and breathing out from the belly. Now, if your arms are comfortable in this outward stretch, palms forward, then you don't have to do any more. Yeah? You're already widening the front body as you breathe in. If you wanted to take the hands a little higher, then you need to use extra effort in and around those shoulder blades. So as you lift your chest, you're lifting your arms and elbows. Maybe you're lifting your eyes as well. And the shoulder blades press forward into the spine. As you breathe out, you bring the hands down. You might want to have your arms lifting up towards the ceiling, gazing between the fingers. And as you breathe out, you follow that midline and you bring the hands down. And if you lifted the chin up, you'd have brought the chin down. Some of you might get a little tired and might want to have your hands resting on the ground for a few rounds. Some of you might want to keep the hands together so you get a stronger stretch. Follow the hands up, lifting, and hands back to Anjali Mudra at the chest as you complete the breath out. And then when you're ready, have the hands down, either on your lap or on your thighs or be on the floor beside you. And take a rest. Those of you who are cross-legged, you might want to cross your feet so the other one is in front. Again, using any support that you need behind the knees or under the knees. So right hand on the floor beside the hip. Not too far away that you're leaning and shortening the spine. So you're still upright. And lift the left arm. And bring the arm beside you as you breathe out. You might want to bring your chin to the right shoulder. Or on the other hand, you might want to follow the left hand. So maybe try both and see what your neck feels like doing. If you take your arm up, maybe the chin wants to go up and you can bring it down to the shoulder as you breathe out. So we're finding what's comfortable for you and your arm and your neck. If your arm's feeling heavy, you probably don't want to hold it up there, right? If your arm feels heavy, then maybe keep it moving. So you're only working at the peak of the stretch very briefly. But if your arm doesn't feel heavy, then maybe find the muscles you need to support it in the back body. So the shoulder can rest, the shoulder blade is held firmly against the spine. Maybe you need to soften the arm or the hand. Maybe you need to look down instead of up. Maybe you want to bend that right hand or move it further away from you if you want that stretch slightly deeper. Or maybe if your arm is tired, you might want to bring it down all the way. Park it behind the back because you're still getting a stretch here in the rib cage. And notice how the posture is supported by the asana. The breath is supported by the asana. We can still open up the chest, the front rib cage as we breathe in. And we can still support the exhale by drawing the navel back to the spine as we breathe out. And then gently and slowly, when you've had enough, perhaps if you've been holding, come back to upright. Again, you can change the legs, change the way you're sitting. So let's start just by lifting the right hand. Inhale, right arm up. Exhale, bring it down. Try what you're going to do with your eyes. You're going to follow it up and down with each breath. What's comfortable for your neck? Make sure the muscles that support the arm are the muscles in the back and not the top of the arm or the shoulder. And again, if you want to soften the left arm, so you go further into that side stretch, then please do. I'm using the exhale to bring the arm down and come to neutral, and the inhale to open the rib cage into that stretch. So again, the body is working for the breath, and the breath creates the movement, and the movement creates the stretch. So the breath or the pranayama and the asana are both present here. If you want to hold the position, then what are you going to do with your neck? Where is my arm most comfortable? Where can I still maintain that opening of the chest on the inhale? And that belly towards the spine on the exhale. Find what works for you. And as soon as it becomes a labour, adjust or quit and come back to neutral. Again, we're just going to take a moment here to loosen off any tension in the legs. Just extend the legs in front of you and give them a wobble, particularly if you've been cross-legged. Okay. So we've stretched forward a very gentle forward bend. So we're going to start off with a gentle sitting forward bend, and then I will offer, as we go along, different modifications and variations. You will enjoy some of them and you won't enjoy others. So find the ones that work for you. Okay, so the knees are fairly bent, feet are on the floor, spine is vertical. Okay, so we're going to take the arms shoulder height, elbows moving backwards, breathing in. And as you breathe out, bring the chin down and then reach the hands to the floor. Inhale, opening the chest, coming back up to neutral. And exhale, belly to spine, reach the shoulders forward, hands to the floor. And we can all feel that ease of the breath, that front body lifting as you're breathing in, and the back body lengthening as you're breathing out. You can make it a slightly stronger stretch in the back of the neck by bringing the chin down before you begin that fold. You can make the stretch in the front slightly longer and slightly more vigorous by simply lifting your hands a little higher. And taking the hands a little further away. So maybe they're resting closer to your feet, chin close to the chest, or maybe the head needs to come a little wider to let the head drop to the knees. Inhale, leading with the hands. Exhale, chin down as you fold. If you don't want to lead with your hands, take your arms wide next inhale. Notice how if you have your hands extended forward rather than downwards around your sides, drawing a big circle. Notice how this is a lot more strenuous from the back if you have the arms long. So if you prefer to draw the arms wide in circles as you're moving up and down, then you might want to do that. Some of you might want to work with your hands if your arms are getting tired. Have your hands on the floor. So you can rest them knuckles down on the bolster, or maybe palms to the floor if you're not sitting on a bolster. And work without the arms. You might want the backs of the hands on the floor, or you might want the palms facing down. If you're sitting on a chair, this one is quite nice because you can maybe hold the uprights of the chair, of the back of the chair. And maybe you might not want to keep moving. Maybe you might now want to just rest, pressing the chest against the thighs on the inhale if you are sitting on the floor. Feeling that strength go all the way down through the belly, through the front body as you exhale, all the way down through the legs. And particularly if you're sitting on a chair, notice how if you push your feet strongly down as you exhale, notice how this seems to also deepen the pose. And when you're ready, coming out of the posture in as easy way as you possibly can. So maybe use your arms on the floor, or you can put your hands on your thighs. You could walk your hands back up to your knees, taking it slowly back in stages. And taking a few breaths to let everything settle. So now we're going to do Janu Sirsasana, which is stretching over one leg at a time. So I'm going to put the sole of the foot facing inwards and maybe stretch out one leg. Now, if doing that is tight down your hamstring, then you'll need a rolled up blanket to put behind the thigh or the knee. Or if you feel that you're a little slouched, you might want to sit on a bolster or a block like I am. And if you're sitting on a chair, you might want to perch on the end of the chair. So you'll have one foot bent, foot under the knee, and your one knee bent rather, and one leg stretched out. Okay. So first thing to do is check there's no unnecessary tension in that knee. Next thing to do is to make sure you're not leaning to the side, that the spine is straight. And then we go gently. Lift the right arm. If you've got the right leg extended, breathing in. And as you breathe out, bring the chin down and bring that arm down to rest somewhere between the knee and the ankle. Inhale, looking up, stretching up. Chin down, belly inwards as you reach out, breathing out, reaching forward. Now let's try how much or how different it is if you lead with your hand, as if somebody has got your hand and it's lifting the hand first and the eyes are following the hand. Let's just notice how different that feels. Arm lifts, eyes lift, breathing in, come up. Chin down. And then again, try how different it feels if you let the arm follow the eyes. And then decide what works for you. Maybe you'll find a compromise between how to hold the arm on the way up and how to have the arm on the way down. Let's do one more or two more stretches. Taking the one that you like best. And then when your next fold is, we're going to stay there. So maybe just put the hands on the floor, the same distance away from your shoulders. You can soften that front knee if it's beginning to protest. And we're going to stay here and just allow the body to move slightly deeper as you exhale. Draw the navel towards the spine. And make a little bit of space so you ease a bit on the inhale. And maybe you'll deepen on the exhale. You might want to use your head, you may not. Noticing that if you let your head move as you breathe, it feels a lot different, as if you take your chin down while you're holding that breath in. So you do the whole of the out breath with the chin at the throat. And then after having played with it, you do what feels comfortable for you. Some of you might want to soften the elbows and come down a little deeper. Some of you might want to straighten that leg out. Some of you might want to do both. And all the while we're staying with a comfortable and steady breath. And whichever version of the forward stand or Janu Sirsasana you have chosen to do, make it your own. As I explained earlier, there are so many different variations on a theme with the human body. So you want to find the asana that is most effective for you today. And that is the most comfortable one. That is the most effective asana, the one where you can ease into it using the breath. And then as the breath feels supported by the asana makes that breath possible, and the breath makes the asana possible. And then gently and slowly, taking your time, let's come out of that stretch and release that left leg. And again, coming back to a neutral position, which is effortless, feeling all those sensations down the legs. And then when you're ready, we do the other side, okay? So we're going to take it really gently. Left hand, if you've got the left leg extended. Lifting the arm as you breathe in. Palm to the floor. Moving the shoulders slightly forward as you breathe out. Deciding where or just how high to lift that arm, just how far forward to stretch with those shoulders, just when and how far to bring the chin down. Whether to lead with the eyes, whether to lead with the hand. Whether you want to bring the other hand forward and stay a little while in that stretch. Whether you want to move the head while you're holding, whether you don't. Where are your hands best placed so the shoulders are relaxed? Still working with that breath engine, still breathing into the chest and out with the abdomen. Whether you want to straighten the leg or deepen the stretch. And just how long you want to hold it. Again, all these things are entirely up to you. And then coming out of it gently, slowly. So again, having discovered how that feels, that asymmetric stretch feels, you might now want to come down or stretch out both your legs. Again, you might want your toes on the floor if you're sitting on the chair, or you may want your heels on the ground, or you may want something under your feet. You might want something behind the back of the neck, or behind the back of the knees and the thighs rather, so the legs don't have to be straight. You might want a little micro bend in the knee, and then just roll forward onto the sit nose so the perineum is pressing downwards a little bit. Feel how the spine lengthens, how the shoulders drop away from the ears. And then when you're ready, hands to shoulder height, elbows back, breathing in. Hands to the floor, chin down, breathing out. Eyes and palms forward on the inhale. Chin down, palms to the floor as you exhale. Those of you who want to work a little harder, maybe next time you rise, you'll take your hands a little higher. Maybe the chin will start to lift and the eyes will look up. Chin down before you start the breath out, perhaps. Hands touch the floor just before you run out of breath. Maybe you'll want to lead with the arms and not with the eyes. Chin down, reaching forward as you breathe out. Maybe you'll want to take your arms wide to the side. And maybe you'll feel that you'll get such a comfortable stretch that you don't want to move. Some of you might want to hold behind the knees if you stay folded. Some of you might want a blanket or a block or a cushion on your knees so you can put your head down. Some of you might want to reach out and hold the ankles, and as you use the muscles in the back to press the chest forward, lifting the head, you might want to straighten the legs. And as you exhale, you might want to soften the knees as you come forward into that fold. And notice that the effort we're making, the effort to come upright and ease from the pose as you inhale, to allow that breath in. And notice how the breath, that stronger breath, that strong exhale from the abdomen is supporting the spine as you stretch. Notice how the posture of the head as you bring the chin down means that right at the end of the out breath, all three bandhas are applied. And there's an urge to hold the breath out maybe. And you have to unfold a little bit. Or you could choose to hold the pose and let the asana make all the necessary stretches happen just by breathing. We soften the front gently on the inhale. We strengthen the front gently on the exhale. And then super gently, whenever you've had enough, if you've been holding the pose, taking your time to come back upright and come back to that neutral position. And then again, soften the knees if you straightened out your legs. Come to a very gentle forward bend here. You can rest the head on the knees if it doesn't reach the ground, if it doesn't reach the knees, you can hug or drape yourself over a pillow. You might want the hands behind you. You can either have the palms down or the backs of the hands, or maybe even catch a wrist with the other hand. And we'll just take a few breaths here. Some of you might feel your knees naturally widening as the knees move closer to the shoulders, so you can let your head drop. And then gently and slowly, from here, maybe just bring your body halfway back up. Slide the hips forwards. Use your hands and elbows to help you. Roll down super gently so that your spine is supported completely on the floor. Again, you might need a blanket or a block behind the back of the head. Or like me, you might want to support that chin to the throat with having a bolster behind you. And then you can put your elbows away from the body, the backs of the hands on the floor. Do absolutely nothing. So we're waiting very patiently for the back to stop moving, for the weight to settle into the floor. And then we're going to start to use that breath that we've been nurturing to move to foot to ceiling pose. So again, this might be more comfortable for some of you to use your arms as stabilizers. You can have your hands palms down with your hips and your elbows are wide. And then as you inhale, pick up the right foot and stretch the foot up towards the ceiling, reaching up towards the ceiling with the sole of the foot. And as you breathe out, you might want to just fold that knee and bring that knee to chest. And as you inhale, you stretch the foot up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, you fold it, relaxing the leg all the way from toes to hip bone, knee to the chest. If you want to work a bit harder, you might want to take that foot to the ceiling on the inhale and foot to the floor on the exhale. Some of you, if you're very strong, you might want to stretch that leg out. So you're working with a full leg, foot to ceiling on the inhale. Heel to the floor on the exhale. You might want to make a compromise. Lengthen the leg on the inhale, so you lift the leg long, but bending the knee as you exhale. So that's easier to carry the weight of the leg. Maybe you find that the easiest way for you to work is by bicycling the leg backwards. Up and into the stretch on the inhale, bending the knee as you take the foot further forward. Breathing in to foot to ceiling. Using the strength of the out breath to maneuver that leg forward as you inhale, inhale all the way up and back. And again, some of you might find that your leg is not feeling heavy and you might want to just hold that position for a few breaths. Foot gets slightly higher on the inhale. Leg is slightly strengthened on the exhale. As soon as that leg starts to tremble, as soon as your breath begins to struggle, you put that leg down and you rest. So let's start with the left leg then, foot to ceiling. Maybe knee to chest on the exhale. Some of you might be foot to ceiling on the inhale, foot back down to the floor on the exhale. Using the whole of the in-breath to find that stretch. And at the end of the exhale, when the breath is pausing, equal weight in both feet, equal weight in both hips. Some of you might want to stretch the leg away from you, so you're using a long leg. Using the strength of the exhale to bend the knee and move the foot away. So you might feel like you're bicycling your leg. Reaching the peak of the stretch at the end of the inhale and using the exhale to carry that leg. Notice the same muscles we're using to make the movement, the same muscles we need to support the breath. And then you may decide to hold the stretch. You may not, you may like the movement. Maybe the leg is still moving, even though you're holding the pose, getting slightly longer as you breathe in, getting slightly stronger as you breathe out. And whenever you're ready in the next few breaths, releasing yourself from whatever you're doing, your version of that pose. Put both feet down on the floor to rest. You can turn your hands over now. You don't need the floor, you don't need your shoulders. You can let them sag back to the floor. You might want to repark your head. And we wait for the back to settle. Feeling all those sensations down the legs. So from here, we're going to do a twist. So again, move your elbows away from the body. I'm too close to the wall to have my arms straight, so I'm going to choose to be more like a cactus. And again, notice that little natural lift of the chest. Notice how the chest is naturally opened up for the breath in, which is good because this is the posture in which we take a breath in. And then we're going to use the exhale, and you're going to keep your feet on the floor and you're going to roll over, and you may find that your chin is already rolling to the left. And then at the in-breath, you're going to come back to neutral. At the peak of the in-breath, there's equal weight in the hips and the footprints, and as you exhale, you roll to the left into the twist. Body is balanced at the peak of the in-breath and rolls into the twist for the whole of the out-breath. Which is how you are still using that breath engine, and how that breath engine is supporting this asana. The whole of the breath out, you're drawing navel to spine, lengthening and stretching the spine to enable that twist. There may or may not be a natural hold at the end of the exhale, when all those three bandhas are applied. And again, if you want to extend that hold at the end of the out breath, you can. Breath begins the asana. As the breath moves, the body starts to move and respond. And again, you may want to adapt and modify the pose by crossing your legs or moving your feet closer together or further apart. You may want to hold the pose. You may decide that you have arrived at your comfortable variation of this asana for today. And you can hold the pose for several breaths, if that's what suits you best. Still breathing into the chest on the inhale, still exhaling from the front body, from the belly. So doing whatever suits you so that you can get the best out of this twist. And again, if you're holding one twist, as you move into the twist on the other side, don't forget to adapt and modify this twist on the other side, because you're not going to be symmetrical. So you take your time to settle into your comfortable version of this pose. If you held the pose one way, maybe think about moving the other way now. and negotiating with this side of the body into your comfortable variation of this twist, where the breath is supporting the asana and the asana is supporting the breath. And breathe. And then when you are ready, when you're done with this twist, again we've got another couple of minutes, so there is no rush. But when you're done with the twist, what do you want to do when you get back to neutral? What do you want to do? What is the best for you? Is it best to hold the knees at the chest and just rock? Is it best to move the knees backwards and forwards and roll along the spine? Is it best just to rock gently side to side? Does it feel better if you make small circles with your knees? Again, none of these is wrong or right. They are all variations on a theme, just allowing the muscles in the back to come back to alignment and to ease any tension and get your back print comfortable. So those of you who are still twisted, gently and slowly come back to neutral. And then when we come to the end of the practice, after we have massaged, kneaded the back into the floor, we're going to come back to rest. So resting, feet on the floor, knees looking at the ceiling, arms away from the body, palms up. You can draw the chin in or put something behind the head so the chin is slightly tucked in, slightly lower than the forehead. And notice this breath that we have been nurturing. Breathing into the chest, breathing out from the abdomen. And notice that even though we're not moving, right at the end of the exhale, there's a sense of those three bandha in the pelvic floor, in the diaphragm and in the throat. Again, notice that natural urge to hold the breath out. So from here, we're going to work a little bit with this breath that we've been nurturing, and the most effective way to do that is to be upright, to be vertical. But you don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor if you want your feet in front of you, if you want to have your back against the wall, if you want to return to your chair, please do. Whatever is going to be comfortable for you. But whenever you do decide to move and you're ready to move on, please do so gently and slowly so that you don't disturb that breath we've been nurturing. And we'll sit together for a few minutes so that we can practice the pranayama. And don't forget, with pranayama, just as with the asana, not every breath will suit you every day. So again, your objective here is to find out what suits you. And for that, you need to keep an open mind, and you have to keep that kindly curiosity. But you also have to be honest about the answers that you get. If you're going to ask the question, how does that feel? Be prepared that some of the time your body's going to say, nah, not so much. Don't like that one. So if, for example, you are not comfortably feeling that pause at the end of the breath out, then you might not want to extend that breath out. If you're not comfortably holding that breath out, then maybe this pranayama, you might just want to do your own thing and work with a steady breath without any holds. So again, as long as you're upright, it doesn't matter what's going on from the waist down, if you're sitting on a chair or cross-legged. And I'm going to encourage you just to have a stretch of the hands and then touch the tip of the finger into the joint in the hinge of the thumb. And then you can wrap the thumbs, again, gentle pressure downwards on that finger bone. And the arms, well, they can be rotated outwards to have the palms up or rotated inwards to have the palms down, whatever is more comfortable for you. And then I'm going to bring the chin right down. So there's that stretch in the neck and that Uddiyana Bandha or Jalala Bandha in the throat. And I'm going to take a breath in and breathe into the chest. So the chest is lifting up towards the chin. And then as I'm breathing out, I'm going to bring my head back to neutral. Lift the chest, breathing in, and bring the chin down. Let the head come back to neutral as you draw the belly in. And then we're just going to contrast this with how does it feel if you take your chin up as you're breathing in. And then as you breathe out, you bring your chin down. And how does it feel if you bring your chin down for the whole of the breath out? Or how does it feel if you reach the peak of the stretch up, chin up, and then you bring the chin down before you start breathing out? Or do you have an easier breath if you keep your head in neutral and don't move your head around at all? And we want to find the most comfortable movement to be making with our head if we are moving at all. And then we're going to just explore that pause at the end of the out breath, where the out breath meets the breath in. You finish the breath out. Holding that pause, waiting for the breath to come in. So notice that during that pause, all 3 bandhas are applied. And how the bandhas are naturally occurring. And notice you have to release them in order to welcome that next breath in. And notice that pause may or may not be lengthening. And those of you for whom that pause is naturally lengthening, can you balance the length of the breath in with the length of the breath out, with the length of the pause after the breath out? So maybe those 3 parts of the breath will be the same length. Maybe those of you who've got a lengthy pause at the peak of the inhale will have an urge to hold the breath in briefly. You might want to work with the breath so that all 4 parts of the breath are exactly the same length. So you might be breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 4, holding for 4, or 6. Or 8, although I would guard against having the breath too long. Some of you might be using a clock ticking or counting or chanting. Some of you might be counting the number of heartbeats. Some of you might feel as if you're making tiny little movements with the body, so the whole body is breathing. So there's nothing stiff and rigid about the breath, nothing stiff and rigid in the spine, nothing stiff and rigid in the throat, nothing stiff and rigid about this movement or body or breath. So all 4 parts of the breath are gradually balancing themselves out. So your breath in, the hold at the end of the in-breath, the breath out, and the pause at the end of the out-breath are all the same length. And take your time, maybe adjust your position if you need to get comfortable. So you allow that breath to return to its natural, spontaneous pattern, its natural, spontaneous rhythm. And this may take a few minutes longer, so you'll need to be comfortable. So again, letting any rigidity in the physical body and allowing that breath to just find its way. So if it helps you to have that attitude of kindly curiosity, ask yourself, what breath am I breathing now? And then having worked with breath and body working together throughout the whole of the practice, hopefully the breath enabling the body and the body enabling the breath, we are now going to let both breath and body rest. So whenever you're ready, coming into whatever resting position you choose. If you have a chair handy, you might want to put your feet up on that chair so that you can let yourself rest entirely. And this is an important part of the practice because this is the part of the practice where we may experience one of those gifts, a siddhi, the possibility of stillness of the mind. If you like, hopefully the asana and the pranayama have worked together to prepare the mind for meditation, dharana, concentration. So we need to have this comfort. We need to have the appropriate support. So some of you might want something behind your thighs. Some of you might need something behind the head. Some of you might want hands covered up. If you have hot hands, you'll probably want the hands on top of the blanket. And the more you can make yourself comfortable, the better. So the more fuss you make and the longer it takes you to settle, you know that you're minimizing any distractions, allowing the body to settle. The eyes are gently closed, and you're still paying attention to the coming and going of that natural breath. And as the body becomes progressively more and more relaxed and more still, and the breath is completely effortless, and because you are relaxed, that breath is becoming stiller and stiller, or more and more gentle. And we have that sense that perhaps the body is being breathed and there's an increasing sense of stillness throughout the whole body. So we are resting in and as a whole body. Feeling the support from the ground beneath you. Maybe letting that sense of stillness connect with the sense of stillness in the earth beneath you. We know, in fact, that the earth is hurtling through space at some impossibly quick speed and rotating at the same time. But from our perception, The earth is completely still, and we are lying completely still upon it. We don't have to know how gravity works to give in to it. We don't have to know how the body works to breathe. We are breathing, and we are merging with that stillness in our landscape. The stillness of the trees, the stillness of the horizon, the stillness of the earth, the stillness of you. And know that all of these things, the earth and you and the trees and the horizon, they're constantly changing. But our perception, we don't see the sun rising very often. We notice it has got higher and lower. But if we sit there watching it all the time, or setting for that matter, we can't see the sun move relative to the earth. It happens slowly. Our perception is changed now. And although we know that we are moving, the earth is moving, everything's moving, we all feel, and we're all still. Everything is still. I just want to remind you that right here, right now, this stillness, this is always yours. This peace, this joy, this opportunity to rest completely. This gift at the end of our practice, where we get a moment just to enjoy the stillness. The body is entirely comfortable, the breath is entirely comfortable, and the mind is entirely comfortable. And when we're comfortable, we rest. And we can just be part of our landscape. We can just have time to remember who we are. Remember that what you are is part of nature's beauty. You are the culmination of millennia of improvement and refinement. All the prototypes that went before you to make you, you. And although each of us is completely individual and unique, this stillness, this calm, this opportunity for peace lies within all of us, whoever we are, wherever we are. And through this stillness, we are all connected. We are unique and different at the same time. We are completely still and moving at the same time. We are alert and resting all at the same time. We are receiving energy and releasing at the same time. Prana receiving inwards, prana being released outwards. That same prana that connects every living thing, whether they be two-legged, four-legged, red, yellow, black or white, furry things or finned things or feathered things. We share this gift of life. So one of the beauties of working when and where you choose and when you like, you don't have to rush to finish your practice. You might want to stay resting for longer. You could stop the class right here if you choose. You might want to stay where you are to finish the class. You do what feels right for you. You might want to join me out loud in the mantra. You might want to say them in silence. You might want your hand on your heart, or you might want your hands in Anjali Mudra. You might want to be upright. So whatever feels right for you, just this moment of ritual to finish the class. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all see good for all. May there be perfect peace between us all. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. Sarve Santu Niramayaha. Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu. Ma Kaschit Dukbhag Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Thank you for practicing. Thank you for taking the time. And I hope that you keep this peaceful feeling with you for the rest of your day.